Hello, listeners. This is a short episode of Firebreathing Kittens where I'm going to quickly describe the rules of the TTRPG Adventurous. You can find Adventurous, that is spelled Adventurous, by Dawnfist Games on drivethrurpg.com. Here's a quick list of the things I'm going to briefly go over. I will be going over the core mechanics, aiding other players, how to roll for initiative, actions and movement, attacking and defending, how to sneak, injuries and death, and alternatives to death. The core mechanic. In Adventurous, the core mechanic is attributes which range from 1 to 5. Your primary attributes are Strength, which is physical prowess, Dexterity, which is nimbleness and agility, Willpower, which is mental strength and composure, Knowledge, accumulated knowledge of the world, and Charisma, or your force of personality. When forced to attempt something risky, challenging, or dangerous, you make a check based on an attribute and roll that number of dice. A single 5 or 6 is a weak success. More than one 5 or 6 rolled on the dice is a strong success. No 5s or 6s rolled is a failure, although you receive 1 experience point. For example, Mindy wants to try and hit a very menacing goose with a baseball bat, so she makes a strength check. Her strength is 4. Mindy rolls a 5, a 6, a 3, and a 3. A strong success. We will explain damage later. This type of check is the core mechanic of the game. Rolling double 6s for some abilities grants special effects, so keep that in mind and it also results in gaining 1 experience point and the party gains momentum. So keep that in mind as you're rolling your checks. Advantage and disadvantage. Advantage and disadvantage may apply due to environment, abilities, or perhaps the assistance of other players. Advantage grants you an extra 1d6 on a test to a maximum of 6d6. A disadvantage reduces your dice pool by 1d6 to a minimum of 1d6. Momentum is a binary party-wide resource. The group simply has momentum or does not have momentum. It may be used to fuel certain abilities and may also be used to grant the reroll of a single die in a check. Influencing NPCs. You can influence NPCs by making a charisma test. Often this might be made easier by offering or negotiating with NPCs. Whether a weak success or a strong success is required to influence an NPC is ultimately up to the GM. Aiding other players. There are a few ways to assist other players. For example, you can encourage them to use any available momentum that you might have as a party. You may assist them and grant them advantage. And finally, in the unfortunate situation that they begin to bleed out, you may make a knowledge test and mark supply in order to stabilize them and save them from an untimely demise. Initiative. In Adventurous, turn order is determined by rolling initiative by making a knowledge test. All PCs that succeed go before the opponent. Those who fail go after the opponent. Initiative is rerolled at the beginning of each round. Actions and movement. Each turn, a creature gets to make a move and an action. Examples of an action: attacking, using an ability, or drinking a potion. In Adventurous, distance is measured in zones. These zones are close, near, far, and distant, in that order. A creature may move 1 band and make an action, or move 2 bands and take no action on its turn. An example: an angry goose wants to get in melee range with Mindy. It is distant from her, so it will move twice. It moves from distant to far and ends its turn near to her. It is unable to act because it moved twice. Attacking and defending. Melee attacks are made with strength tests, and ranged attacks use dexterity tests. Damage for weapons and abilities is described such as W2/S4. This stands for weak 2 and strong 4. When an attack is made, on a weak success, the weak damage is inflicted on an opponent. On a strong success, the strong damage is inflicted. If it is a failure, your character misses and nothing happens. When a player is defending, strength is used to defend against melee attacks. Dexterity is used to defend against ranged attacks, and will is used against magic attacks. If the defensive test is a weak success, the player takes the enemy's weak damage to its HP. On a strong success, the player avoids all damage. On a failure, the player takes the enemy's strong damage to its HP. Armor in this game is a value from 1 to 3 that subtracts from the damage a creature receives. However, damage can only be reduced to 1 HP, never to 0. Massive damage. Certain situations, such as a sneak attack, might grant a player's attack massive damage. Massive damage doubles the damage dice of the weapon attack, so a weak 4, strong 8 damage sword would instead do weak 8, strong 16 damage. Sneaking. In order to sneak, a PC makes a dexterity test. It is up to the GM to decide if a strong or weak success is needed to succeed in sneaking. Sneak attacks. Attacking a creature from stealth that is not engaged in combat may inflict massive damage. This may only be done with a one-handed weapon. Massive damage doubles the weak or strong damage of the weapon based on the result of the attack. For example, weak 4, strong 8 becomes weak 8, strong 16. Injuries and death. When a PC is reduced to 0 HP, it becomes wounded and rolls on the injury chart using a 1d6. On a 1 to 2, the character dies a terrible death. On a 3 to 4, you are knocked unconscious for 1 hour and are bleeding out. On a 5 to 6, you are knocked down and are bleeding out. Bleeding out. A PC that is bleeding out must roll a 1d6 each turn. On a 5 to 6, they survive another turn. On a 1 to 4, they die immediately. Bleeding can be stopped through magical healing or by performing a knowledge test to stop the bleeding through first aid and marking supply. Alternatives to death. Adventurous does not pull any punches when it comes to lethality in adventuring. The chances of dying seem pretty high if you drop to 0 points, since you have about a 33% chance of rolling a 1 to 2 on the injury table, and you need a 5 to 6 each turn that you are bleeding out to keep from dying. So it is good to have this in mind and perhaps find a way to discuss this with your players before playing. Some people do not find character death to be a fun experience. Thank you for listening to my rule summary for the RPG Adventurous by Dawnfist Games. Check it out at drivethrurpg.com. Goodbye.